I did my CPA after I became a partner at KPMG.
It's like after becoming partner, you have started
Yeah.
CPA. How was the early learning curve, the articleship, hurdles, being the youngest partner in Big Four also?
My first kind of client was the ANZ Twinlays Bank on 90 MG Road, an iconic building. We knew as much as we did. Some amazing learnings. I think one of the key things that I took away from that part of the journey is that no job is too small.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Brains Behind Billions podcast. Today we have none other than Mr. Jamil Khatri sir. You spoke a lot about discipline, hard work, a lot about time management. So how do we manage time?
I think first of all, very personal. I have some tricks that I use. I calendarize everything. I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on Twitter, and I don't miss it at all, honestly. Second, I delegate ruthlessly.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Brains Behind Billions podcast. Today we have none other than Mr. Jamil Khatri sir. Welcome to the show, Jamil.
Thank you very much for having me on the show, Sripal.
So Jamil, I'd straight away start with a lot of our questions with many of the students have from your journey. The first question which students have asked is, in India, most parents encourage their children towards engineering or medicine. How did chartered accountancy come into the picture, Jamil?
Yeah, I think first of all, there is no right or wrong in terms of what you do. In my case, it was just the environment in which I grew. My father was an accountant, so a little bit of influence around that. Second is I went to a commerce college. I went to the Sydenham College in Bombay. And that again, there were a lot of people who were doing or wanted to do their chartered accountancy. And third is, I came from a middle class family. I also felt that chartered accountancy was very, in some way, cost efficient to do. Because the economics around that worked kind of quite well for me. So yeah, a combination of factors led me to becoming a accountancy and a CA.
So when you decided to pursue CA, was it a conscious plan or did someone push you for that or how was it?
No, as I said, I think it was about the environment. I was always attracted to finance and commerce and business. And to that extent, I always felt chartered accountancy was a broad enough subject to kind of start with. And then it just took its turn. As I said, when you're in college, some of it comes based on what your peers do, what your friends do. A close friend of mine, his father had a chartered accountancy firm. I guess he was always very clear. He wanted to be a CA. And on the back of that, things flowed.
Awesome. So looking back, Mr. Jamil, do you feel not choosing engineering or medicine shaped your career differently?
As I started by saying, I frankly think it's as much about what you do with what you study as it is about what you study. So of course my career would have gone in a different way. If I'd done engineering, maybe I would have been a techie. Maybe I would have been at the heart of the AI move right now. Who knows? But I think the point really is whatever your interest is and what you study. In my case, I was able to make the most out of it, and then life took me down a path. I think the only other thing I'll say is that some of these choices are not permanent. Of course, medicine is permanent in some way. If you do medicine, you end up being a doctor. But even there, as we know, there are enough cases of doctor entrepreneurs, people starting off being professionals and then becoming entrepreneurs, and some amazing examples of that. In engineering, you start somewhere, you could end up being a founder of a company or whatever. And similarly, as has been in my case, being an accountant did not mean that I only was an auditor or a professional, but ultimately it took me places. So I think the point being, your career is a factor of many, many things that happen in the journey. Where you start is just one point.
So did you feel the FOMO now with AI coming up that why did I not select the tech field?
Not really, actually, because everyone has their own set of challenges. I know enough techie friends who've kind of done their technology, done their startups. They don't have access, they don't have distribution, they don't have the network that I have cultivated over the last 30 years, right? Similarly, I'm constrained because my understanding of technology, irrespective of how hard I try, that's not my core education. So I don't understand that to the level that they can. But I think what most of us have figured out is that how do you then supplement that with teams and people around you who kind of fill up the gaps that you have. So yeah, so absolutely no FOMO. I'm greatly enjoying what has happened till now and look forward to the next 20 years of my journey.
So Jamil, this has been some outstanding journey. So you started off as a CA, then how was the early learning curve, the articleship, the hurdles, and now you have been been the youngest partner in Big Four also. So how did this entire thing kind of came out?
Yeah, I think I was very fortunate. First of all, landing in the right platform, and even there, I think it's less about. I spent most of my time, as you know, in KPMG. I was very fortunate to have some amazing leaders and mentors around me. So the learning was amazing. I started off doing bank audits. So I used to, my first kind of client was the ANZ Grindlays Bank, way
Okay.
back on 90 MG Road, an iconic building. Honestly, we did not, we knew as much as we did. So we just tried to apply ourselves and kind of do, just learn along the way. Some amazing learnings. I think one of the key things that I took away from that part of the journey is that no job is too small. You will go through different phases of your life where you will have to do things which. So my first job actually was to hold guard files. I don't know whether most of the youngsters may not even know
They
what
might
a
not have
whole,
heard about the
yeah,
name
what
as
is a
well.
whole guard. So there was a time where there were paper files, and in a bank there used to be a lot of paper. This was the 90s, and so that the paper did not tear off, you had to actually take these plastic kind of round things and put them on the two sides when you file the paper, so that the paper would not tear off. That's a whole guard.
Okay.
And my first job was to whole guard 200 files.
Oh.
And I mean, one could say that, look, that's like such a kind of a silly thing to do, or that's so menial. Why couldn't a clerk have done it? But actually, in my case, I saw that as an opportunity to read as much what was written on those files and those papers, and I ended up learning as a part of the process. So I think the point that I've always felt in is that whatever you do in life, you will have many curveballs thrown at you, things you enjoy, things you don't enjoy. But how you apply yourself, what you learn along the way, is what is going to define you in your life.
So at what point did you realize, Jamil, that this career would take you global?
Uh, I think the good thing about working for a global platform was very early on you start dealing with international stakeholders. And in my case, it was also because I got very early into US GAAP and US listings. Again, luck. So my second big job after ANZ Grindlays was ICICI. This is when ICICI was listing in the American markets, doing a ADR, where Mr. Kamath at that time had very boldly said that to transform the bank, you had to list it in the American markets. And so I was very fortunate to work on that. And that got me a very different, exposed to a very different set of stakeholders. Some of you in the education space may remember India only had 15 accounting standards at that
Yes.
time, AS1 to AS15. And if you knew those 15 standards, you knew accounting. And then suddenly you go into a world which is very international. There was IFRS, there was US GAAP, there was SEC rules and regulation, AICPA had its own pronouncements, and so on and so forth. And I kind of got exposed to that very early on. I also got exposed to many global partners within the network. As a part of the listing, I got involved to global investment banks, global lawyers, and I think that seeding in the 1990 to 2000, late part of the 90s, really shaped my exposure to the global world. And that actually got me to realize that while there's amazing stuff in India, we are just one piece of a big global puzzle, right? So that exposure then became my calling to becoming more and more international and global over time.
And this is a very interesting take, Jamil, which you have spoken about, and a lot of them have spoken about your overseas listing skills. For students, why do companies go for overseas listing? What is this listing about, and why shouldn't they not go for India and directly go for the US?
Yeah. No, I think first of all, again, there are no right wrong answers. This has also changed over time. Way back in the early 2000, the play really, it all started with global IT services company, then global pharmaceutical company, where if their customers were largely in the US. So as you know, for Infosys or a Wipro, a lot of their customers are in the US. So how do you build credibility as a global organization? And listing in the US was one way of doing it, right?
So it's more about the respect.
About the credibility that you are not, you are effectively an international global organization. But the interesting part there is that's not the only model. So TCS, which has the same set of customers, decided that it did not have to be listed in the US. Or Cognizant, which are the same set of customers, actually said not only it has to be listed in the US, but it has to be incorporated as an American company, right? So it all depends on what really is the driver within a company, what the leadership believe is right for the company at a point in time, and that's how this whole thing started. Now, if you fast forward that 25 years from then, as you know, now the flavor of the day is to reverse flip companies and list in India. So we've been reading about this, and at Uniqus we'll talk about this. We've been doing a lot of work in that area because now the counter to that is, why would Flipkart list in India versus listing in the US? Because if for Flipkart, the key market in which they operate is India, if they're best known in the Indian market, then it makes sense for them to be listed in India versus being listed outside India. And I think that's really how this is playing out. So the short answer is, I don't think anybody should apply a formula to say, should we list in India or should we list outside India? It all depends upon your business, your company, your shareholders, what are you trying to target, and that's how the journey then goes from there.
Then why, Jamil, like they have taken a contrarian view like TCS?
Yeah.
For people who are new to listing, मतलब आप stock market में अपने shares list करते हो, and predominantly you're coming from a logic that जहाँ पे आपके customers हैं, you better list your company there because that creates a credibility and people get you to know more.
Yeah.
Why did TCS took a contrarian bet on this?
Yeah, I think there are many factors. One of them could be they may have felt that to attract talent, right? Effectively, it is best to position themselves as an Indian company. It could be many other factors. See, listing overseas also comes with a cost. Right? There's a cost of compliance.
And compliance.
Yeah, you need to deal with different regulations, the foreign set of rules, and therefore, many companies have decided over time that they don't necessarily need to be listed overseas. So every fact pattern is different. I've done IPOs for companies that are subsidiaries of global companies and have decided to list in India because they want to be seen more as Indian company, right? So Siemens, for example, being listed in India is seen as much as an Indian company as it is seen as a multinational, and so on, or Glaxo for the sake.
Correct.
So I think, once again, going back to the point, there's no one size fits all. These are exactly the debates that companies have before they decide on where they should be listing.
Awesome. So this is about the listing expert, because Jamil has been involved in some amazing listing. I think Wipro was one of the bigger one, which I was following you on LinkedIn, and you spoke a lot about that. How was that experience of Wipro being there in the US? It's an Indian company, Indian IT giant.
Yeah.
How was the overall experience?
Yeah, great learning. Once again, I think amazing to see Wipro list in the US markets. And I think what overseas listing did, at least at that time, and I think we'll talk about it, but India has also evolved over time, is it also brought in very stringent governance, compliance, and a lot of discipline within the organization. So you got to, Infosys or Wipro used to close their books and get their audits done on a quarterly basis within 15 odd days of the end of the quarter. That was the time when many Indian companies used to take 30 days or 45 days, right?
So there was sort of urgency there.
A sort of urgency, the discipline, people invested enough from a compliance perspective. So great experience, great learning. As I said, I made some great friends in the banker community, in the lawyer community. Some of them are still very close friends in the US, in Singapore, and across the world. So amazing experience. And of course, Wipro is a great organization. I learned a lot from Wipro overall. And some of those learnings continue at Uniqus when we're building the company. One of the things that Wipro was known for is how do you prevent wastage, because you can be a global company, you can be a big company, but you don't necessarily have to be extravagant in what we do. So yeah, many learnings, many things along the way, which was a part of my journey.
And that's great, right? Like which you rightly pointed out. In fact, Infosys and Wipro were the first companies who used to declare the results in the stock market.
Correct.
And
Very
that
early.
kind of comes up with a lot of disciplinary when you are there overseas listed. And that kind of becomes the big buzzing thing as well on Dalal Street. Okay,
Correct.
Infosys coming up with the results.
Yeah.
They actually sets the tone as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what mindset changes did you need to operate at a global scale, Mr. Jamil?
Yeah, I think 2-3 things. First is, I think people globally, and right or wrong once again, are a lot more structured than what we are in India. So how do you bring in? I learned a lot around discipline. I learned a lot around professionalism. Outside India, meetings start on time, end on time, basic things. People end up on time, people respect each other's time. How do you prepare? How do you document things? Of course, there are now disadvantages to this as well, because sometimes you become too rigid in what you do. But the one thing that I really appreciated is that everyone is different, and how do you in fact adapt and celebrate that differences and use the strength that everyone has became a big kind of learning for me. The second thing that is very important when you work in a global environment, and I learned, and I think I was very fortunate, is just cultural diversity. I spoke about work being different, but even how you are as a person is very different. So when I was heading a global business for KPMG, at one point in time, my leadership team had an American, a British, a Japanese, a French, an Italian, and I think it was amazing, because what you had to do is everybody was aligned to creating a global business, but the way they would approach it, some cultures people are very fast, some cultures people ponder, reflect a little bit. How to get an understanding of these different cultures is what I learned a lot, just working on the global scale.
Awesome. So, which courses, certifications, or skills helped you build the global credibility, Mr. Jamal?
I actually am not a big fan of running after certifications, honestly. I'm a huge fan of skills. Anything that helps you to build skill to me is very important.
So, how do you define a skill?
Yeah, I think skill is something that you effectively don't have familiarity with, but you want to. So, for example, communication, right, or making an impact, storytelling. These are all skills that come along the way. You can learn these formally. You can go to a classroom. You can do courses. I actually did a lot of my learning through experiences because of the exposure that I had. The one thing that I did do, and I think that might be very relevant for our audience, is I did my CPA after I became a partner at KPMG.
It's like after becoming partner, you have started
Yeah,
CPA.
and I think that was fascinating, because, and the reason I felt that is, remember, I was doing a lot of US listings and all of that. A lot of my work was US GAAP and stuff. And while I knew as much US GAAP as one could know, and this is again, nobody knows it all, and adding a degree would not have helped. But I did feel that if I needed to get a full, complete understanding of the subject, if I also had to come across as being more credible with clients and stakeholders, it was important that I kind of did my CPA. So I remember I went to Delaware 4 days or whatever, and just completed my CA in those CPA in 4 days. And yeah, it was fun. So I think my
CPA in 4 days, guys.
yeah. 4 days of total. 2 days I finished all the papers, but whatever. But I think the important part is that it's a combination. My guidance to people would be, don't chase just certification. A combination of certification that are relevant to what you do, and skills, and how do you enhance your skill learning. That combination is very important.
Jamil, the more I communicate with you, you look more brilliant. So, how do an average person like me relate with you? Like, because you have been an all India ranker in chartered accountants, you completed CPA in 2-3 days, you became partner in Big Four at the youngest age. These many achievements are there. So, how do an average people even look up to you? So, is it very much possible from our side also? Or, what did you do differently to ensure that you were growing like that?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. Actually, I feel very few people are born brilliant. There are some. Elon Musk was born brilliant, period, full stop. Uh, and then, of course, there are others. But I think most people actually are born within a particular range. The reality is, some people will struggle, but for the most part, I think people have a potential in one area or the other to be excellent at whatever they do, and over time be excellent in an overall basis. I think 2-3 things that have always helped me. One is, and I've said this many times, there's no substitute for hard work. I actually still, the way I prepare for meetings, the amount of time I spend preparing for meeting is often as much as the meeting itself. And of course, you need to carve out that time. That's where discipline, time management comes in. So first, I would say it's hard work. Second thing is application. What I mean by that is that I've never believed in multitasking. So I never can understand how people can do 3-4 things at the same time. I find that dilutes your ability to excel in a few areas. And therefore, I've always found being focused, putting hard work really helps you and excel in what you do. Third is just the ability to learn. I think you have to have the humility to go around and talk to people. The number of people I meet where I have no agenda. I meet people to learn, either from my clients or from investors. Even when people reach out to me, of course, I can't meet and I don't meet everybody. But if I find something interesting about a particular person's profile, what they've done or what they're doing, irrespective of whether I will gain anything or not from that, I meet people. And that learning is fantastic. So I think the hard work, application, focus, ability to soak in the experiences, and the final thing I'll say is luck. I'm a huge believer in luck. I believe that many things happen at the right time for the right people. Now, that does not mean that you just can just sit back and say, I will be lucky and I'll make it big. What I mean is, all of this gets accentuated or negated by what circumstances do you actually come up and work on, right? So I think it's a combination. Again, I have seen some fairly average people who are seen as average excel in certain areas with the application of certain principles, and I have seen some brilliant people fade away because they did not follow principles that would lead them to ultimate professional success.
You spoke a lot about hard work, application, and all. So, how many hours Jamil work in a day?
Actually, it's an interesting question. I'll answer it. I stopped working weekends 20 years ago. I don't work weekends. No Saturdays. No Sundays. Yeah. So first of all, let that sink in. I'm not a huge fan of people who are cluttered. Now, that does not mean that the only way you can do it. I know equally successful people, more successful people who may believe they have to work this thing. But I work very intensely during the week. So typically now with Uniqus particularly, my days start very early with the US. So I'm at work generally at 8:30 and my days go on till 10 o'clock in the night.
Oh, that's huge, like 10 to 12 hours.
Yeah, but at the same time, I find my own space. If I have to take a break to do something, grab a cup of coffee, I do that. I do dinner properly. I eat well. So all of that stuff kind of happens. But what helps me to get the most out of those 12, 14 hours, and which is why I don't have to work the weekends, is the discipline, the focus. I don't get too excited with some stuff that has happened. So, I need to deal with this as well, and so on. So I think the key is time management. I think if people manage their time well, they are able to achieve a lot out of a working day, and therefore more and more reasons why they can spend the weekend with their family, their friends, doing what they like doing, rejuvenate, and then go and do what they do again. I was telling somebody, I'm at that stage in my life where I equally enjoy a Friday evening as I enjoy a Monday morning.
Amazing.
Right?
It's very rare these days.
So either people look forward to the weekends and don't look forward to a work day, or they just look forward to working and don't look forward to spending quality time and enjoying themselves. Thankfully, I have reached a stage where I enjoy both equally well.
And what is the art to time management? Because I'm just having another follow-up.
Yeah.
Because you spoke a lot about discipline, hard work, and then a lot about time management. So how do we manage time?
Yeah, I think first of all, it's very personal. But at the same time, like I have some tricks that I use. I calendarize everything. So honestly, if something not on my calendar, it's very, very difficult for people to get in and take my time. And the reason why that's important for me is not just for myself, but also for others. Because if I have my calendar allocated to an X, but I end up doing Y, I'm not only impacting me, but I'm also impacting a lot of other people
also,
who expected X to be completed by a particular point in time. So that's one. Second, I delegate ruthlessly. So whatever I don't have to do, a lot of whether it's clients, whether it is people, a lot of people escalate issues to me, and my standard response and reflection is, do I really need to be involved with this? And if not, I'm very graceful in terms of delegating it to somebody.
And you tell them it's
that effectively how you deal with it. You deal with somebody else, and most people, when they get that direction, are perfectly fine with it. See, a lot of it comes because of lack of communication. And therefore, if you communicate openly with clarity, people know when to kind of lean into you and when not to bother you, and that's really how it comes through. So I would say being disciplined, calendarizing things, focusing on certain things, delegating, knowing what not to do. A lot of people end up. By the way, I don't do social media. So no, I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Instagram. I'm not on Twitter. and I don't miss it at all, honestly.
Yeah.
I love it. I am, of course, on LinkedIn because professionally that helps me to be connected, and I do
On the
that
networking side.
on the
Yeah.
net. Just getting my views across. I see it more as much as the networking. For me, it is more about communicating. A lot of well-wishers of Uniqus, for example, across the globe are very keen to understand what we are doing, and the amount of leverage we've got through LinkedIn without paying for anything is unbelievable, right? So I digress a little bit, but I think the point is just staying focused will helps a lot.
And this is an excellent answer to the question, because students ask what are the different skills beyond the exam.
Yeah.
And it's just about only the curriculum or the structure, but time management,
Correct.
discipline,
Correct.
hard work. These
Correct.
are the skills which are intangible.
Correct.
But they are such an indispensable part of your career.
Absolutely.
And what about the technical stuff? Like if Jamil was a student, or Jamil is a person who wanted to recommend a student what they should study on a technical side, what should they brush up and which books they should kind of study?
The two different things here. I think I was always very technical oriented, by the way.
That's the question.
I can still, I love reading, and I used to love reading even back then. Whether it is accounting standards, auditing standards. In the US we had at that time what are called EITFs, the Emerging Issues Task Force Guidance. I would read every EITF. The EITF would be 3 pages. The background to the EITF would be 5 pages. I would read that. So ultimately, I think reading and getting into the technical depth is very important, and I used to love doing that. I think the key part is what I would say to people: if you're a professional, don't read only headlines. I hate people who read headlines actually,
And then don't
because
get
they
into the
don't
details.
have the depth. Because most leaders, if you have to succeed, need to know. Of course, at some stage you can't know everything, but till you get to that stage, you need to be L2, L3, L4, and that will only come if you have personally read the details around whatever it is. So I think reading is amazing. Learning through discussions, talking to people is very important, and I used to do that. So that's on the technical side. I go back to the point you made on being all-rounded. I read a lot outside. I don't, but first as a philosophy, I seldom read management books. I don't like management books, honestly. So I read stuff which teaches me something new. So for example, if I had to recommend books to people to grow, I would recommend one of my all-time favorite books is by Benjamin Graham. It's called The Intelligent Investor. He's Warren Buffett's kind of mentor.
Yeah.
Everything you need to know about finance and investing. I read that book once every year, even today.
Oh.
If you need to know how to do a startup, read Peter Thiel's 0 to 1. And if you need to read about AI, and we can cover that later, read a book called Singularity by Ray Kurzweil. It's called Singularity is Near. So yeah, so lots to do and lots to read.
So this is scintillating, right? So much of reading, so much of studying. How do people get motivated first to open the book and read?
Yeah.
Because that's a very tough skill. So what would you recommend the reader? Like, should they start just reading like a novel first, or how is it like?
Yeah, I don't know. Each to his own. By the way, when I said I don't read management books, that's not the way I started. I used to read a lot. See, you find your genres, you find over time. But first thing is application. And again, you don't need to read the physical books. Some people are very good in digital books, whatever it is. But read as much as possible from the source document rather than relying on summaries. Because at the end of it, how much will you summarize? Soon we'll have summaries of summaries, right?
Exactly.
And there's no end to this. So yeah.
Coming to the career related questions, how do students decide that audit is their future, or tax is their future, or advisory? You were there in advisory, you were in mergers acquisition, overseas. So many attractions, so many options.
Yeah.
At our time there were very few or limited options. मतलब
Correct.
आपको audit में जाना है, audit में जाओ, या tax में जाना है तो tax में जाओ.
Yeah.
How do you get that clarity कि यार this is something which I like? मतलब मुझे कैसा पता चले कि this is something which I love?
Yeah, a good question. I think some people are generally very clear, depending on their background. So we still, for example, I run into students who say, I want to do tax, right? They're clear. Tax excited, maybe that's what they picked up when they were studying, preparing for their exams. So that's kind of, for them, that's the path. But I feel 90% of people will find what they like doing only with experience. And that is why, and I've said this publicly in the past, that audit is a very nice and safe place to start. In fact, even at KPMG, a lot of our leaders that we produced in our consulting businesses started off in audit.
Audit.
So people who did due diligences, people who did corporate finance, people who did valuations were at some point in time auditors, right? So I think my simple guidance would be, one is if you're clear, go with it. But 90% if you're not clear, absorb the experience, but be willing at points in time to pivot your career, right? Because I think the worst thing you can do is keep on doing stuff that you don't enjoy, because at some point it will become very late for you to make a pivot, right? So I think the key really is start with something which is more generic, be vigilant, and then keep on making your choices.
So for an example, for a fresher, anyways, he'll not have the experience. So you would start off with any of the profiles which is getting into. So you recommend them to just start off with any of the job.
Yeah.
Then figure out after a year.
Yeah.
Don't you think it's unfair to the company which have hired him or her?
Actually, I don't think anything is fair or unfair. You know, I had this very good conversation with a journalist recently. See, companies will do what they feel is right.
They'll still get more people.
One is get more people, but when they do not need people, they will lay off people, which is what is happening.
Yes.
Now, you know, I don't think we should sit back and say,
What
is it
companies
fair
do?
on the employee? Because the company is doing what it has to do to manage its stakeholders. Similarly, every person has to do what is right for them, for professionally and
This is
personally.
excellent stuff.
As long as somebody is doing it for the right reasons. What I'm not a big fan of is people moving jobs for 10%, 15%, 20% more of compensation. Because that shows in my mind, not just disrespect, it's not good for you as well as a professional.
You're okay for learning, but not okay for this.
Yeah. If it is a change because you want to do something else, I think it's everybody has a legit right. And in fact, you know, at least when I used to be a leader at KPMG and we do that at Uniqus, is we never hold back people because what is just important for the platform. We always look at what is important for the person. For example, we have a very senior leader who's for personal reasons relocating to outside India. Now, at a very selfish level, you know, one would have said that, look, is their interest better served in India? Will the platform get impacted? But of course, it will get impacted. But ultimately, if that is what they want to do, it's up to the platform to find what it has to replace them while they do what they enjoy. So, point is, I think everybody should experiment, but make a move when it is required, but make a move for the right reason.
And is it a right thing to ask what is the salary I must expect? Do freshers, what is the way, how do they interact in interviews? So do they have all the rights? मुझे 12 लाख 13 लाख चाहिए. So is it a right thing?
I think it depends on what you're interviewing for. And I think if the question is asked of you, what is your expectation? I think you should be honest enough with your expectation in terms of what it is, because you would have, particularly if you like a job and don't want to lose out on that because you know either they don't understand what you're looking for. My simple guidance, again, no right or wrong answer, is be as honest and transparent as you can be in a particular situation, and then play it by ear from there.
So it's like more like you're deciding that this is what is the standard package which you would want to, and it again depends on the requirements.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So, but how is it like if I have gone into audit field and later to realize, so in both the fields like audit or tax, everywhere the sky is the limit, or do you think that audit has more earning opportunities and tax has less earning opportunities?
I've got to a stage in my life where I believe everything has just a tremendous opportunity. It is what you do with the opportunity. I know people in sectors where people said there is no future are doing very well. I know people in the field of AI who are effectively wasting their time.
Yeah.
So honestly, I just think it boils down to the same 4-5 principles. We can slice and dice it whichever way.
It's all about hard work.
Hard work, application, clarity, focus. I think as long as you do that consistently, I think the other thing is being self-aware about what you do and don't do. Many people do certain things without being aware of why they are doing certain things. They do it either because some of their peers are doing it or it's fashionable to do it.
Copy.
Yeah, I think the more self-aware you are, you know, it's really going to help you in terms of your career.
So now coming to AI, because we have been talking a lot about AI. So there are a lot of talks about agentive AI. Like AI as automated content creators. Also now podcasts are also becoming agentive in nature. So how do you now glance through all these disruptions basically, because, and especially with respect to finance and accounting, do you think that our AI will have the ability to automate everything in the accounting, or how is it?
Yeah, I think so 2-3 things. Clearly, will the power of see, AI always existed even before LLMs. What effectively has happened through LLM is the whole generative AI, Gen AI movement has kind of, got accelerated. I think the first thing is clearly AI as a tool, productivity, what it can do, will definitely change the way we work and what we do and what we do not do. I was just sharing with my team yesterday. So before any key meeting that any Uniqus leader goes in, there is a team that prepares a very nice background note for the meeting. What is the company about? What are their pain points, etc. A team, and it takes the team a couple of hours to do it. If you use some of the LLM platforms very well with the right prompts, you can get to 80% of that in less than 10 minutes actually.
Exactly.
So now the question really is, what would I really like that team to do? Would I like that team to spend the 2-3 hours doing it the way they did it? Or is everybody better off them doing that in 10 minutes and then using the balanced time either to refine? So let's say you start with a 10 minutes initial output, you spend 10, 15, 20 minutes or whatever, in half an hour you're done with that. Is that time not better used for many other initiatives that we've been wanting to do on benchmarking, on comparison, versus just getting the basic data in kind of place? So I think AI from a productivity efficiency perspective is going to be is definitely going to change it. One of the things that we're doing at Uniqus is we realize that most of the disruption will initially happen at the lower end of the menial tasks that are required. So traditionally consulting companies had pyramids where you would have or 10 odd percent at the partner director level, 20-30% at the managerial level, and the balance 60% at the staff level. Our own assessment is this will become diamond shaped actually in the future.
Awesome.
Yeah, which means you will have lower number of people required doing menial work, a lot more people doing the analysis in the middle part actually, because what they were doing earlier at the menial level will get replaced by the power of kind of AI and agentic, etc. So yeah, very fascinating. I think it's something that everybody should track in what they're doing, whether they are students and studying, whether they are kind of professionals who are applying the skills, whether they're founders running companies. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Don't you think that if everyone will try to become analytical and execution gets automated completely,
Yeah.
everyone will become managers? So how do you then foresee that?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Honestly, these are the questions to which answers will evolve over time. Frankly, there are many jobs today, as we know, which we did not think existed. I don't know whether 15 years ago podcasters or influencers were jobs actually.
Correct.
No, they're not jobs. But now they're jobs. They're amazing jobs. People, there's an ecosystem that's built around it. So I'm sure there are newer ecosystems that will build for people who don't want to do the managerial analytical thing but want to do something different. It'll give people more time maybe to do their creative interests better. Who knows? I think honestly nobody has all the answers to this. But clearly I don't think the jobs of today will be done the same way as they are being done today, and therefore how are you prepared for that is the question.
So you're telling time will decide. Basically ये लोग execution से ऊपर जाने के बाद what is that they will do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'll tell you, there is a lot to be done. Honestly, I don't believe in the foreseeable future till at least I'm going to be in business where everything will get kind of agentic to the level that people believe. So the way we are doing it is we are saying, let's say for example, we are doing projects today, right? Historically, if 100% of the projects was being done through humans, we already got to the stage where say 20-30% is being impacted by automation. It's not AI. There's basic workflows, technology, all the stuff, technology has been available. Now out of the balance 80%, how much can you replace through use of agentic flows? Our assessment is you can impact at least half in many areas. So the question then is, therefore, we will need fewer people to do kind of this entire 80% as compared to what we kind of required earlier. And I think that's really the reality of the future.
And does AI will remove auditing and tax jobs?
No, I actually again don't think that ultimately in all areas, would I have a AI agent or a company as my auditor? Remember, there's an element of trust at the end of it. The question is, what will the machine do? What will the human do? That coexistence in every area will evolve. And Sripal, like I said, I don't claim to know. I don't even spend time on many of these questions actually. All I kind of spend my time on is how can I be agile enough to make sure that I am following what the technology is doing. I'm not I'm not doing the foundation models. The foundation models are already done by people. So as new technology is evolving, how can I, a business person or a professional or a practitioner, adapt that to my benefit is the question that we are focusing on. I think that's the way most people should look at this. Actually.
So it's more about using AI as a tool as such.
Yeah, but it's very different from most other tools. See, most other tools needed a human to operate the tool for the most part. Cars, of course, change the way we move around, but there still was a driver required, right?
Yes.
Now, the question then is, when machines start doing things without human intervention, what will the human do is the question. The human has to figure out, but that's a much broader question that honestly, like I said, very few people have answers
It will
to
evolve with
over
time. They will figure
Indeed.
out what is
Indeed.
that they'll
Indeed.
come to know.
Indeed.
So if you were starting your career today in the age of AI, what specific tools, technologies or skills would you make sure to learn?
Yeah, I think the important point is, how can I think the worker of tomorrow will need to be a lot more tech savvy as compared to where we were, honestly.
And that applies to finance professionals.
Everything
also.
that applies to the finance profession, that applies to most things. And when I say tech savvy, it doesn't mean that everybody has to be an engineer. In fact, the relevance of code writing, 5-10 years ago, if you remember, it was very fashionable. People were teaching their kids to code. I think honestly that's not required. What is required is an appreciation of technology. So whatever you do, whether and I think this also is a curriculum question. How do we make curriculums for different professions? Whatever you're doing, whether you're doing chartered accountancy, taxation, how do you embed the power of technology into that, so the professional, when they come out, understand how technology could play a role, and then kind of move forward. So I think from my perspective, the professional of tomorrow will need to have a better understanding of technology, human to human interaction. See, soft skills are going to become a lot more important once again, because if a lot of hard work, right, menial work, or the computational work is going to be done by machine, you could potentially add value through things like managing, interpersonal communication, influencing. So I think the ability to play on those skills, even as you play on your functional skills, is going to become very important for the professional of tomorrow.
Awesome. So how do you personally keep up with new technology and you remain relevant as a leader? I know you recommended a book, Singularity, but what are the other things are you ensuring that you're updated with the latest technology things?
Yeah, so of course, again, I continue to read. It goes back, as you would have, the audience would have figured out, I read a lot. I think in addition to reading, I think you can learn a lot by meeting people. So once again, I meet a lot of people. I meet a lot of startups. I just love meeting founders of startups. I love meeting people who have good ideas, and not just to because you can then connect the dots, right? So, for example, even in our area of work, we have a dedicated AI team that it focuses on how would AI change and how should we change the way we work. But equally, whenever I come across a company or a team that is working on the same problem, I spend time with them, get to know them, get to understand them. I spend a lot of time with the VC ecosystem in India and outside India. Some amazing ideas kind of come out of that. So combination of reading, meeting people, tracking the whole space, etc., is what keeps me relevant.
Amazing. So how did the most important part of our podcast, I would say, is leadership.
Yeah.
Leadership cannot be automated by AI.
Correct.
Everyone knows about that.
Correct.
Because leadership is an art, it's a skill.
Yeah.
And so how did you progress from being a high performing professional to joining the Indian leadership team at KPMG, which is the top big four today? So how did all these things happen? So how did you scale? Because there are so many questions in students' mindset. Why are they hiring 1 lakh people?
Yeah.
What do they do with this 1 lakh people, Jamil?
Correct.
So
yeah.
What is happening? Like, why do they need so many people?
Yeah, so two different kind of, I think first of all, India is an amazing talent pool for all global organizations. And which is why I continue to be very bullish on the entire shared service model, outsourcing model to India, whether it is for the routine or it is for the high end. We've seen both happening. We continue to believe. So as you know, at Uniqus itself, we do some super complex work around climate risk, around IPOs from India for global clients, right? So to the point on what is being built in India, not just by the big four, but by a lot of people, is the talent and technology that exists in India for the world is and will continue to be a big draw. I think on leadership, which is where you started your question, I think the first thing you need to realize is, the role of a leader is very different from the role of a doer. Many people don't understand the difference. They believe that success, being a good leader, is about just being in the market, winning new clients, doing all of that stuff, building a brand. That's important, but that's like 10% of the game actually. I spend a lot more time, and I always used to, building my practice. What does that mean? Planning, having a vision for what the practice is with clarity, recruiting people for the right job, understanding where the gaps are, right? Motivating my teams and my leaders to make sure that they know what is to be done. Making sure that I have a mechanism of monitoring and review what's being done, taking decisions in an agile manner. So I think from a leadership perspective, it's not just about just doing it on yourself. Today, all the businesses I've led would not, and at Uniqus as well, we would not be this successful if it was only about one Jamil Khatri. Honestly, the biggest success is today, for example, at Uniqus, we have a $20 million Middle East practice, which is run independently by people without me
Your
spending
involvement,
more than 3-4 days in a month or a week in a month, right? So how do you cultivate that? That's kind of leadership. So a combination of vision, strategy and planning, recruiting the right talent, motivating the talent, managing the talent. A lot of leaders also make the mistake of saying, look, people will sort it out between themselves, right? And that's where they effectively end up not dealing with friction. People don't want to deal with hard things. The job of a leader is actually to deal with things in a very focused manner with tough situations. A very prominent leader in industry, who's one of my mentors, always used to tell me that I don't go for routine client service meeting where it is to impress the client. But if you have a bad client situation, we have an unhappy client, I insist I will be there. Because those are the areas, no, a leader should not go there to hear only good things. A leader should go there to deal with difficult situations. And when you do that at scale, you end up building big global organizations.
This is excellent answer for leadership because it's more about how you motivate your employees.
Correct.
And,
Correct.
So would that be the first question when you're hiring a manager? That how do you motivate people?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we are very clear about the ability of somebody to attract talent. We see how often when they have moved jobs, have people in their former teams join them over time. What has been attrition in their teams, etc. So we are very, very mindful of that. So I've always been very aligned to making sure that we build the right culture, and for leaders, the ability to manage and motivate talent, inspire talent is very important.
And how do you motivate, manage, and inspire them?
It's a very complicated. I think initially leaders start by managing, which basically means that they have to set goals, they have to manage, right? As you evolve in leadership, you get to what I call the motivational level, where you honestly, through your communication, through doing the right things, you get people to do without having to monitor them. The final stage of leadership is when you inspire people, when you don't even have to motivate them. They self-motivate themselves. They're like a autocorrect mechanism. They will go through the tough time, they will kind of come back. And all of this depends on the same leadership principles that I spoke about earlier. But yeah, that's what you got to do. And leaders have to realize what is it that they're good at, what is it that they need to improve on. So the self-awareness equation becomes relevant for them again, right? And that's how it goes.
So what's the difference, Jamil, between doing great work and being seen as a leader?
Yeah, I think you can be an individual professional and do great work, but you can create this thing where you're saying, look, leave me on my own and I will do a great project, or leave me on my own and I will manage one team. But for being a leader, you need to have, again, all the attributes that I spoke about. See, for being a great professional doing great work, you don't need to have vision. But for being a great leader, you need a vision.
True.
Right? So there are many attributes. Each of the attributes, I think, apply to leadership, which effectively you can still be a good professional. You can be a good architect, you can be a good engineer, you can be a good chartered accountant, but you may not be a good leader if you don't kind of inculcate some of the things that we spoke about earlier.
Leaving a senior role at a Big Four, and that also it's a global role, to starting Uniqus is a massive leap. So what was the deciding factor for you, Jamil, to leave the global role?
I think, and I've said this kind of publicly, I think the question to ask at every stage of your career is that, will you enjoy doing what you did for the past into the future? And I got to the stage where my answer was no. Now, when the answer is no, because you feel that what you're doing is not giving you enjoyment, giving you the impact, and honestly, the platform itself, whether whatever you leave, and many founders come out of big companies, it's not that they dislike a platform; it's just that they stop enjoying doing what they're doing. And in my case, therefore, and the same thing was for Sandeep, my co-founder, is that what we wanted to build and what we thought. So we both loved consulting. We love professional services. We love people. We love clients. We love technology. We just felt that we'll enjoy doing that a lot more if we were in another platform. Now the question is, which other platform? And to us, all the platforms look like each other actually. So the question never was, if you leave X, will you go to Y? The question always was, if you leave X, what will you do? So one option for me was, did I want to go into private equity and do something? Then I concluded, I'm not an investor, I'm an operator. So that went out of the window. Then I said, can I go into an adjacent industry and lead something? So let's say IT services. Again, is more of the same. It's the area is different, but my role of managing and leading will be very similar to what I was leaving behind. And that's when we reached the conclusion that if we have to truly enjoy what we want to do in the area of people, clients, and technology, it's best to build it on our own in a differentiated manner, and that's how Uniqus was born.
Amazing. Again, a lot of amazing answers in the podcast, right? What were the first 100 days as a founder, Jamil? Because every founder for startup, they face tremendous issues. So how were your first 100 days?
Yeah, I have been honestly, I have been super fortunate. I honestly don't, and I tell my teams all the time that I'm just, we should count our blessings and thank a lot of people for the amazing start we had initially. We signed our Series A for $12.5 million at a $50 million valuation before we had even started kind of anything. I left KPMG on 30th June. On 3rd July, we signed our term sheet. So to that extent, I think things were as good can be. But having said that, I'll tell you a few things, because I don't want to give the impression that there's no. The first most difficult thing is to take the decision that you are going to do a startup, and you're going to move away from a well-established platform to do something that goes through is very mentally very exhausting. There's no right answer. You ask the question that, are you at the right stage of your career? Do you want to do it now? Do you want to do it later? Difficult. How do you pull the team together? So as you know, we have two co-founders at Uniqus, that's Sandeep and I. Originally, we may have had 4. So how do you, but 2 didn't finally decide it was not the right time for them. So how do you manage this entire flock together? How do you manage investors? Because investors had a bunch of expectations when we were discussing with them. How do you give them what they want? We're very fortunate to have Nexus Ventures out of Silicon Valley in India as an investor, and then Soreen, which is the fund founded by Sanjay Nair of KKR. But so how do you make sure you create a win-win? Those are the very difficult questions that you deal with this thing. I was very fortunate that I had some amazing leaders. So Sagar Lakhani, who was our first partner, who joined us, another former KPMG leader, he took off a lot of load off us in terms of all the other stuff that had to be done around office space and stuff like that. But yeah, a bunch of interesting things. But like I said, we've been very fortunate, not just in the first 100 days, but since then over the last 2.5 years to build Uniqus into a global organization that it is today.
So as an investor, Jamil, what's the first thing you look for in as a founder?
This is on my angel investment side, right? Yeah, I'll make 2 points there. I think first of all, I have concluded that angel investing is not for everybody. It takes a lot of time and effort. So earlier, I used to be a lot more active as compared to where I am today. And the conclusion there, and the important point, and the reason I say this is that a lot of people get super excited about saying we'll do angel investing. I think that's doing it the wrong way, because you need to have the aptitude. You need to be able to spend time to make that investment. That's the first preamble point. But once you decide that you want to, and which is what I did, a bunch of very nice investments. One of my companies is filing for an IPO right now. Another company will file an IPO next year. So some amazing kind of stuff there. I think first is the how differentiated is what is being proposed actually. Because a lot of it sounds very similar. So, and there was a point in time when I used to do very actively, a lot of it was copying global ideas into India, right? But for example, I'm a big investor, not a big, take back the word, not big, but I'm an investor, and a very early investor in a rooftop solar company. And what I loved about that company is the idea itself was very differentiated with what has been presented to us earlier. So that's the first thing. Second thing is the pedigree of the founder, both in terms of what their experience has been, or where they have studied, what is driving them, their passion, right? And will they last the whole thing? Because there's some very difficult part. So will they be able to rough it out through the journey is very important. We made some bad mistakes there by investing in founders and companies where when the going got tough, because the founders came from very rich families, they went back into their family business and did not continue, right? So looking at the founder, looking at their experience, their determination is very important. And the third final thing is focus. I used to feel very bothered when I would come up with on founder then team who would say they'll do this also, this also, this also. And so that used to be the defining moment. And by the way, we inculcated that at Uniqus on the other side by making sure that we remain very focused in what we wanted to do. So yeah, that's how it's worked for me.
So Jamil, there are so many inspiring stuff which we have listened today. Now, what about the advisors for the parents? Because at our time, there were only one career option after commerce. Go for chartered accountancy and we are done and dusted. And then later we did CPA like you did, I did, and made it look more global. But for today, the parents who are listening to you, what is the advice if their children want to explore careers beyond engineering and medicine?
Yeah. I think it's becoming very difficult now, both for the students as well as for the parents to decide. My first kind of guidance would be that spend some time understanding what the child wants to do, because don't let your mindset, your prejudices, your experience drive the final answer. So try to learn as much as possible. Second is, I think we need to give children a little bit more space as compared to the space that we got maybe, because there are choices, and rightfully if people have to exercise choices, some of them will not be conventional. So give them space. At the same time, I would say try and see, even if it is a choice that you don't like or you feel is not a choice that you wanted, don't disconnect. Stay engaged with the child, because it is possible that the child themselves may realize it was not the right choice and therefore may need your help. So in short, move away from your biases or your experience, give people a little bit space, but at the same time keep engaged with them, so that if your experience can be helpful, and in many cases that experience will be helpful, you are there to play that role.
Awesome. So now for students, Jamil, what's the single most important step they can take today to start building a global career, especially with AI reshaping the finance function?
Yeah, I think first of all, I am not a big believer in silver bullets. So one thing in my mind does not really solve anything. But I think one, if I had to, I'll say clarity and focus. So whatever you can do to be clear, whatever you need to do to get clarity, don't let things meander. Often I find people they don't even put the effort in to determine what is it that they want to do. The more you spend time on getting clarity upfront will then determine your path of the future.
So what is some practical example? How do they cultivate the clarity?
I think first of all, maybe listing down what are the questions that bother you in terms of your future, right? Who do you need to talk to, or what do you need to research to get an understanding of the whole thing, and what decisions that you need to make. Now, honestly, from my perspective, it's not whether you make the right decision or not, but going through this whole thing of itself, a lot of people push that down the line to say, just look around, what is X doing, what is Y doing, what is Z doing, what's fashionable. My advice would be, take more well thought through, well researched decisions when you start your journey. Now, those decisions may end up not being correct, and that is why you need to be agile to course correct. But to get you started, if you want to be on that side of the road, and if you start walking this side of the road, it'll take you only longer to go back. Exactly. So at least figure out which direction you want to go before you've traveled too far on the wrong side.
And there's a lot of talks about GCCs as such. So capability centers are opening up, and students wanted to build their careers. And a lot of questions have come on GCCs.
Yeah.
What is this entire concept, Jamil? First was in-housing, then outsourcing, then capabilities. How do you segregate and differentiate all these three terminologies?
Yeah, I think at a broad level, first of all, companies are realizing that because of lack of talent close to where the businesses are, particularly in the developed world, and also because the cost structures out there are very significant, people have no option but to get work done in places where talent and technology exists. That could be India, that could be Philippines, that could be Sri Lanka, many other places, right? Jordan and Egypt have kind of developed as a center. But and when companies make that decision that they can and want to get work done away, and the second question is, do they want to do it with an outsourcing partner, whether it is a Genpact or a WNS or an Accenture, or whether they want to set up their own center, right? If they decide to set up their own center, that effectively is the shared services model, and which is what a lot of big companies do. In the professional services industry as well, as you know, all the big kind of 6 companies have set up their own center. And what that means is, if they are doing auditing for clients or they're doing tax for clients, they don't want to give that work to some other outsourcing partner in India, but they want to set up their own captive center to do the work, and that's really what has proliferated. And now, as you're very well aware, outside of the big 6 as well, most other CPA firms have also decided that they need to set up their center, and that's what they've been setting up out.
So talent is something which is kind of pushing a lot of these firms to come to India and set up this and all.
Correct. So I think the 3 factors: one is availability of talent, second is the cost of that talent, and third is the attitude and the motivation. See, actually talent in India continues to be, in our experience, very hungry for working very hard and doing meaningful work. So that's why people are coming to India for
So
that.
do you think that's a good, interesting proposition? Like, you started off Uniqus and it's growing a lot. Now people who are in the job and they want to set up something on their own now, and the parents watching them, and today they go to the parents and tell, see, I don't want to do this job and I want to start something on my own, like a CPA firm or a CPA practice here. Do you think it has good scope now in India?
Yeah,
or is it the right time?
Yeah, I think first of all, it depends on a lot of things. It depends. So for every startup like Uniqus that is a success, there are 10 startups which are failures.
Exactly.
Right? Now that could be for a variety of reasons. Either the idea is not scalable, either idea is not well thought through, either the person doing the idea does not have it in them, some of the things that we spoke about earlier. So I think each person should make that assessment for themselves, and it's their responsibility to discuss it with their family. I think if they are convinced, honestly, they should proceed irrespective of what their family feels, is my guidance. But family should support equally, like we kind of discussed earlier. So I don't think there is a one right answer. I know many people who moved out of big platforms, set up companies to do outsourcing for others. Some of them have been successful, many of them have not been successful. So it all goes back to the set of circumstances that we spoke about earlier. So one size does not fit all there, Sripal.
So in your experience, Jamil, what is the biggest mistake young professionals are making today?
I think the one thing I like professionals to do less of is just jump jobs, actually. I just find that bizarre. I find it very funny how people leave jobs without knowing the culture of the other organization just because somebody is paying you 20-25% more. I'm absolutely clear, in the medium term, forget long term, it does not pay at all, actually. We have stopped recruiting people who jump jobs, who we see 3-4 movements, we're not interested in them. So we become very conscious. Thankfully, attrition at Uniqus is very low. So it's not a problem we face too much. But I think my simple guidance would be, and this goes back to the principles we spoke about, it does not mean you need to be married to an organization for 25-30 years, the way parents were and the way people were in the previous generation. But it also does not mean that you change for the sake of changing. I kind of meet people who say, I've been here for 3 years, I think I should change. I mean, that is the flimsiest kind of explanation that somebody could give. So not changing for the sake of change, applying themselves for the medium term, being very clear of where they're going, why they're going. I think getting control of that would be a good place to start.
I think feeling joy in the work is the most critical thing. Like that was the initial point why you left KPMG, because you were like, you wanted to explore something new, wanted to do something new.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that's the only reason.
Yeah.
You can very well make a change if you feel there's stagnancy, you're not growing in the current organization, right? You can, for doing the same thing, you can go somewhere else, no problem, as long as you got growth. But the definition of a growth cannot be a 20% increase this year or 6 months earlier than the future. That's the point.
And that's what is happening with Gen Z
Correct.
audience. So they have been leaving jobs. So what is making them so impatient, and how do they cultivate patience in their career?
I think that's a psychological kind of a question, honestly. I have stopped trying to figure this out. I think from my perspective, every company, and I'm now looking at, I've shared what I feel the students and the professionals should do. I'm now from a company perspective, I told my people that the only way to play this is, one, be clear what you're hiring for. Spend a lot more time in hiring people who you believe are longer term prospects. If you need to pay them a little bit more, no problem, pay them more. And second thing is technology. Become less and less reliant on people at the junior level. There's no other answer to this. I don't think human behavior will change anytime soon. So therefore, business people will have to learn to deal with this whole fickle-mindedness of the generation. Use them to the extent you can. I mean, that does not mean you can't do anything. So for example, one of the things that we found very helpful is international rotations. Giving people the ability to do exposure and projects globally. That effectively ends up being a big retention thing, diversity of experience, getting them to do different type of work. So we are all trying, and I think that's the only way to retain talent.
Do you think somewhere HR skills is becoming very, very big thing now in this generation?
Absolutely. And I think every organization needs to invest significantly in people management skills. By the way, we don't call it HR at Uniqus. We hate it. We hate human resources, honestly.
So what is
we call it the people function.
Awesome.
Yeah, because for us, it's all about managing the people organization. And so our Chief People Officer, Soumya, she's done a fantastic job. Building a global business across 5 countries, 11 offices, 600 people in 2.5 years. Amazing quality talent is not easy. And that would not happen unless you put the people organization at the heart of everything. And that's what we've done at Uniqus.
This is amazing, right? So because there are a lot of people skills which are being tested, and I think you mentioned in the leadership as well that leaders should spend some time in kind of mentoring and guiding the talent.
Absolutely.
How would at Uniqus, what would you think, like in hiring the talent, what would be the basic? So are you also looking to hire CPAs, CAs, other professional qualifications, or is it limited now to only accounting qualifications?
No, we continue to, most of our, so we have different recruits in our in our first 2 businesses, which is the whole accounting and reporting and the risk and controls. We have a lot of CAs, we have a lot of CPAs, a lot of graduates, a lot of ACCAs that we bring in there. On our sustainability business, we have a lot of masters in environment sustainability, very diverse social skills. And our technology business, obviously we bring in a lot of computer engineers, and so we have an interesting group of people join us from Bits Pilani. They're doing some fantastic work on our AI agenda. So yeah, I think for us, skills matter, education matters, but what matters the most is attitude actually. We hire for attitude, particularly at a more senior level. Now, honestly, I don't think it's possible when you hire hundreds of people to figure out attitude, but from manager onwards, when we hire
leadership
people,
is very
we
critical.
have a very important criteria to make sure that we got people with the right attitude.
So if your career wasn't last over, Jamil, what 3 pieces of advice would you leave for the next generation?
Yeah, I think first is hard work. There is no substitute for hard work. I continue to say, believe in that. Second is clarity of purpose. You can work very hard, but if you're working in the wrong direction with lack of clarity, you will suffer. Third is finding the right set of mentors around you, talking to them, seeking guidance. And finally, I think self-awareness, which is knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're not good at, and making the decisions, taking the action that will make you good at what you're not, right? So a lot of people don't spend time. So I would say hard work, clarity, mentorship, and seeking mentorship, right? And finally, just being aware of where your shortcomings are. I really have a lot of fun in interviews when I ask people, so tell me what are your 3 shortcomings? it's all BS that they give me actually. And I just find it unbelievable how people either don't have shortcomings, or people don't believe that they have shortcomings, or people are afraid of saying as if we can't figure out what their shortcomings
Yeah.
are. So I think being self-aware of shortcomings is very important as well. So
I'll quickly move to the rapid fire round, and this is our last
sure,
theme of discussion, Jamil, so that this podcast comes to a successful end.
sure,
I hope you're ready, Jamil, for
sure,
this.
sure, sure. Always ready.
Okay. The best book every student should read, Mr. Jamil.
Yeah, I think I covered that a bit earlier. I would say from a professional, from a finance
The most
perspective,
favorite book.
my favorite book would be The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham.
A risk that you took and it paid off.
Founding Uniqus.
One city every student should work in at least once.
I'll take two, New York and London actually, my two favorite cities.
CA or CPA?
CA,
ACCA or CPA?
CPA.
What Jamil likes the most when he's free?
Reading and listening to music. Two things, but yeah, reading. By the way, I do both together. So I read while listening to music. So
Audit or tax?
audit,
Advisory or audit?
advisory.
Okay, I think that's all, Jamil. That was a quick, super fire, rapid fire round.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this. And it was great to kind of listen a lot of these super fire answers.
Now let me just take a few minutes to ask you some questions, since
Sure,
you kind
sure,
of
Jamil, go ahead.
grilled me over the last 90 minutes. You know, one thing I'm very curious about is the fact that you've been dealing with students and their aspirations for a long time. What change have you seen as compared to when you started Simandhar to where you are today? How have aspirations changed for students?
I think they started off first as normal getting into a job in Big Fours, and that has been continuing till now as well. But the only thing is, first Tier 3 people used to want to get into Tier 2, then Tier 2 wanted to get into Mumbai, and now Tier 1 people want to get out of India.
Yeah,
So what the aspiration have become is, from Indian, they are becoming more global.
Got
So
it.
they want to make careers outside India as well now. And
Yeah.
I think that's where the thought process have changed more from the students' perspective. Previously,
Got
they wanted job only in Deloitte, EY, KPMG and all.
Yeah.
I think that is one thing which have changed, that they are looking more for exposure now.
Got
So
it.
they are not just wanting to stick to big firms only.
Yeah,
They want to learn something and start something on their own.
got it.
So their aspiration have become more entrepreneurial first,
Yeah.
and more global in nature.
That makes sense, and that's consistent with what we are seeing. And the second question, I read a lot of your very inspiring stories that you put out on how Simandhar and has changed. If you had to pick up one success story that really made you feel that you're doing a great job or you made an impact, tell us about one success story.
So we were doing a session in Mumbai. Mr. Rajneesh Jain was invited there. So he's the Reliance CFO currently. And in the entire session, once we completed the session, there was one student who walked out, and he came across and he said, "Sripal sir, I'm your student. I got placed in Infosys internship, which you actually were one of the biggest factor, because we had a tie-up with Infosys. So I was an ex-Infosian, so I worked with Infosys CFO as well. And I pushed him that he should take a lot of these people and all, and that internship paid off. And then later, to my surprise, he came and said, "Me, sir, I was a Zomato delivery boy. I used
Wow.
to sell pizzas and all.
Wow.
And 11 to 12 hours, I used to sell those pizzas.
Wow.
And just to let you know, because of your internship, I passed my US CMA level 1. So
Yeah.
there are 2 parts in US CMA. So he was pursuing US CMA. He didn't even took any loan or anything.
Wow.
He wanted to do everything on his own.
Yeah.
He didn't even ask a single rupee discount also on the course.
Wow.
He said, "Sir, I wanted to do it on my own."
Correct.
So I took all my internship money and paid off this entire USCMA fees, the training, entire stuff. So he
Got it.
passed part 1, he passed part 2. He got full time also absorbed by Infosys. He
Yeah.
was awarded Best Debutant Award by Infosys.
Very nice.
2 years. Now after 2 years, now he's in IIM Kozhikode doing his MBA.
Wow, very
And
nice.
most probably he would come into Uniqus, I would say, because advisory or valuation is his very favorite area.
absolutely.
So
No,
Ankur
amazing.
Yadav. So we have written a book which is the Unique Classroom.
Wow.
And that book is written by me, covering the 13 inspiring stories of
Very
the
nice.
students. And
No,
Ankur is one of them actually. So I just want to present the book as
Sure.
well.
Thank you.
Jamil.
But
this is
thank
the
you.
book.
Thank you.
So I think that was one of the most emotional moment for a faculty, because I think शहर के लोगों को तो हर कोई पढ़ाता है, मतलब
Correct,
every student
correct.
comes, they do CA and all, but जब इस लेवल पे ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन दिखते हैं तो इट मेक्स अस मोर इंस्पायर्ड एंड वी वुड वांट टू डू मोर फॉर द सोसाइटी.
Perfect.
एंड दैट मेड मी रियली इमोशनल, दैट स्टोरी.
Awesome. But thank you, and pleasure talking to you. And I know you guys are doing great work at Simandhar. Keep up the good work, and we will continue our collaboration and keep producing more and more Ankurs for us. The country needs it. So
Thank you so
very
much, Jamil. It was great meeting you, great hearing from you.
Thank you
So much. Today we have gone from your early decisions beyond the usual engineering or medicine path to leading on to the global stage, adapting to AI, building businesses, and investing in the future. What I am taking away is that success is built on clarity of thought, adaptability, and the courage to take bold steps. To every student listening, your dreams are valid no matter how far they seem today. To every graduate, the world is your playing field. Prepare and step onto it. To every parent, your belief is the first and most important investment in your child's career. This has been Brains Behind Billions, powered by Simandhar Education. I am Sripal Jain. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep building your legacy.